Thank you for being here.
My pleasure.
So instead of me introducing you, I just figured I might let you say a few things about what you're working on and how you got into this whole Bitcoin, blockchain thing.
Well, yeah, I'll start with that. I'm in the venture capital business. I have been for about 30-something years. And I ran into this guy from Korea, and he came to my office, and he said, yeah, this was 2003, something like that. He said, yeah, we've got about 40% of the Koreans playing this game called Lineage. And I said, what, 40%? And he said, yeah. And it's so important now that I hire a guy to be my avatar when I go off to work and play Lineage for me. And I thought, wow, that's going above and beyond. And then he said, yeah, and then my son wanted a sword for his birthday. And I thought, well, that was a non sequitur, but it turns out he was talking about pixels on the screen. He wanted a sword for the game. And I started to think, wow, people are living a big part of their life. It's an imaginative world, and they are living in that virtual world, a big part of their life. And so I started to think, imagination, thinking of real estate, virtual products, survival. And then I thought, wow, virtual money would be really cool.
Wow.
And then they started to put virtual money into various games. But it wasn't until, and I kept thinking that the games would connect the virtual currencies so that like some Farmville money would, connect with some money from Zork or from some other game. Well, that didn't happen. But what did happen was Bitcoin came out, and my experience with Bitcoin was I backed a guy because I thought, wow, this is great. And then I said, I want to buy some Bitcoin. And he went and he said, well, I'll take your money, and what we'll do is we'll buy an ASIC so that we can mine Bitcoin so we can get it for $4 a Bitcoin instead of $6. And so I said, okay, great. And he went off, and then he said, God, the ASIC's not coming. It hasn't been shipped. It hasn't been shipped. Turns out the guys who made the ASIC for him front ran him and were mining Bitcoin for 6-7 months while Bitcoin went from $6 to $36 a Bitcoin. And then they finally shipped it to him, so then he got some Bitcoin.
Yeah, Bitcoin.
And we were mining, and we were getting Bitcoin. And then he said, and we'll store it with these guys. It's the biggest exchange, Bitcoin exchange in the world. It's called Mt. Gox. And we stored it there. We lost the whole thing when Mt. Gox disappeared the money.
Disappeared the money.
Yeah. And but then I thought, well, then that's the end. Too bad. That was really going to be fun because I was thinking, wow, a digital currency is really going to be valuable. It's so frictionless. And I thought Bitcoin was over, like it would go to zero. But it turns out it only dropped about 10% or something, 15% on the news, and it took off, and so that's when I got really interested.
Okay, so follow-up question to that. When do you think crypto will eventually surpass fiat?
Okay, so first I'll get to the idea that what Bitcoin was suddenly, what I discovered it was being used for. There was a lot of criminal activity. Now you can't do that anymore because the blocks, everybody knows who owns what block of Bitcoin.
So you will eventually tell us where you keep yours.
Do you have any angles on me there? Well, but here's what I discovered, that a big part of it was people sending money to their families overseas or banking the unbanked. And that was a huge thing. I didn't realize, you know, I discovered that like about 2 or 3 billion people are too poor to get their money into any of our banks because the banks are so highly regulated that it costs, like, at least in the US, it costs $200 a year just to comply with all the regulations for your account. So if you're coming in with a bank account for, you want to set up a bank account for $10.38, they push you away. So there is an unbanked population that gets pushed away. So this was one of the great, where I thought, wow, that can open up a huge part of our economy. All of those countries that don't have banking, all these other things, it's going to be really something.
Oh, okay.
And so that was the first, but there are so many other applications now that are coming out. Like, if you want, like, you ever watch those Star Wars movies and then you see 15,000 credits that come down?
Right.
Well, each one of those people gets, the median check might be $3.22, and they get it every quarter or something from being like the assistant to the lighting guy for Star Wars movie. Well, they get those checks for $3 and something, and it costs Star Wars about $7 to send them. Well, with Bitcoin, everybody can just get a Bitcoin wallet, and they can say, hey, that first weekend was $1 billion, push a button, and then that money goes, boom, to whoever it's supposed to go to. And so then there's, what's great about that is that it's honest, and it's transparent, and you don't have to waste $7 on an envelope.
So given we are at a conference that's talking about unintended consequences of technologies,
yeah.
I would love you to go that direction and give us some perspective. Like everything you just talked about, if there's one person in this world who has drunk the Kool-Aid of Bitcoin and the whole technology, you got that down.
You bet. And that wasn't the, I mean, and it was so many other reasons that got me going.
So I want you to walk a little bit into what could possibly go wrong.
Well, it depends on for whom it goes wrong. Here's what's going on. Okay, with Bitcoin, there's the blockchain, all the Bitcoin affiliated technologies, the blockchain, smart contracts, artificial intelligence, big data, deep learning, they all together can form a tremendous disruption to the biggest industries in the world. So if you are a banker, this is generally bad news because Bitcoin is going to be a much better currency for anybody to operate in, and they don't need you. And, you know, of course, bankers have those big buildings and the beautiful people walking out of those dressed as well as you are, and we're paying for that.
And we've seen
it turns out you don't have to pay for that.
Seen some famous investors like Warren Buffett and other.
Oh yeah, people with a lot of dollars don't like having an alternative. They're not thinking, you know. So Warren Buffett and whoever. They're all saying, or Jamie Dimon, they control all the dollars. So they're all of a sudden they're watching as a currency comes up that's better, and they're going, oh, I have the old one. They're saying, get rid of it. No, we don't want that. So here's the other thing. The big industries that are going to change, they're huge, trillion-dollar industries. Finance, commerce, insurance, real estate, healthcare, government itself. Government is changing now because you could, with all those technologies, if you're a good enough software programmer, you can replace pretty much all the functions of government, at least all the ones that can be virtual. And if you can do that, then suddenly, like Estonia is and some of these other countries, you can provide virtual governance to people. Governance, a lot of it is tied to security.
Are you part of another country, virtual?
I am a virtual resident of Estonia.
Oh, wow.
And probably will end up being a virtual resident of Malaysia and Malta and whatever other countries want to compete in this new world.
So this is the whole idea of like governments have to compete for our business. For us to be citizens
for the
in those
businesses,
countries.
the citizens, the money, the entrepreneurs of the world. governments have to compete. And all of a sudden, there is a vehicle to help them compete. And so the smaller governments are going, hey, finally, we've got Bitcoin. It's so much better than, because, you know, the Maltese, I guess they use the euro, but let's say the Nigerians, who in Nigeria really wants to use the naira? I mean, the thing drops 50% a year, almost like clockwork. Or the Argentinian peso.
Yeah, and that's happening, like, right?
People lose their fortunes. Every time somebody builds something up, they lose it because the government manipulates the currency in the wrong way. So and they can't do that with Bitcoin.
You can't, right? So you're the person who predicted the price going to 10,000, and you famously also predicted by 2022 it's going to be at around 250,000.
Yeah.
Okay, so for, again, going back to the question, I haven't fully gotten a good answer out of you. Going back to the question of, if we look at science, if we look at science and look at nature,
other industries get affected.
Right. So
like
let me first.
The status quo is going down.
Right. So if we look at science and technology and nature, nothing goes up forever. You look at a plane, goes up, it peaks, comes down. You look at a bird, goes up, runs out of energy, comes down. You look at a tree, goes up, it dies,
I don't know,
comes
the
down.
space station is still there.
Still up. So are there any...
So you got to think that through.
What are the unintended consequences? Is there any? Do you believe there's absolutely nothing that could go wrong?
Oh, lots of things will go wrong on our way to this better world.
Okay.
The world's going to be much more global and decentralized, and you're going to see these, where our world used to be tribal and fiefdoms, you know, it used to be like we're all tied to this geographic thing, so it's us against them, and, you know, we demonize them, but now it's sort of global, and we can kind of move from place to place, and we kind of go, oh, that guy wasn't so bad, and so, like, I was a Giants fan. Now I've been down to LA, and I go, okay, you know, those Dodger fans, they're not bad. They're good people. and so, yeah, of course.
What happened to loyalty?
They're a little bit just fair weather fans,
But how about tax evasion, money laundering?
Oh, well, see, what's great now, what's bad was earlier people were able to get away with that. But now, if you are a criminal, you're much better off using cash than Bitcoin. Because with Bitcoin, you can take the Bitcoin for your criminal activity, but that block is now tagged. And it's tagged by the US Marshal's Office or Interpol or whoever. They are tagging that block. As soon as you try to spend that money, you're busted.
Right.
And so use cash if you really want to be a criminal. So
I'm not trying to do that, but
yeah. But you're asking what nefarious things can be done. Well, now you can't do those nefarious things anymore with Bitcoin.
Correct.
And so people were able to do it. And I think, you know, people are now using Monero or Dash or whatever to try to stay in the dark. Well, it turns out, I think it's all coming to light. That's the whole point here, that Bitcoin's blockchain is a perfect ledger. It keeps perfect track of everything. So we're all better off sort of signing on to Coinbase so that everybody knows that you've got, you know, that key wallet number is assigned to you. And that because, you know, you're not really going to be able to stay incognito. So eventually, everything is going to be sort of open, decentralized, and legal, which is interesting because I think legal will take on a new meaning. In different countries, they've got different laws. Right. But I think what we're going to do is we're going to get to the point where countries are all having to compete with each other, right? And what happens when, you know, this glass manufacturer competes with that glass manufacturer? Both of them, the quality gets better and the price goes down. And so I think in government, the quality of government will get better, the regulations will go down, and the cost of government will also go down.
So I got a question for you. You are, you know, all for decentralization, right? I want to ask you about an effort that you recently was involved in and invested in a lot, and that is splitting California into 3.
Yeah, how about that?
That sounds like a centralized governance.
No, you know what it was? I'm so glad you brought that up. Because, well, first of all, whether you like the idea or not, you don't get to vote. That's Prop 9. Where's Prop 9 on the ballot? It just says, Supreme Court determined that this was not appropriate for Californians. They decided, and they used 2 reasons. They said, we're not sure if it is constitutional. That was one. The other was, we think it'll be disruptive. And
that's what you're trying to do.
That was the whole point. And what they did was they proved me right. I was thinking California was getting corrupted. And I think they proved that I was correct. They corrupted the system, so you don't get to vote whether there should be 3 Californias. My idea behind 3 Californias initially was, think of all these new things happening in Bitcoin and all the associated technologies. Think of what government could be, how awesome it could be. Well, with 3 new governments, you have none of the baggage of the old governments. Right. And you can reinvent, and those 3 governments would have to compete for you.
Business, right.
So yes, it is consistent.
Oh, cool. Thank you. So we're running out of time, and I want to give you the last word. We have pretty amazing individuals in the room, and young up-and-coming entrepreneurs and seasoned ones like yourself. Any last words of wisdom for people in the room?
Well, if you're an entrepreneur, step out, do it. Whatever it is, do it, and try it, because failure is just one step on your way to success. At Draper University, we say, I will fail and fail again until I succeed. And just by trying, you learn and you get better at it. And just by sticking your neck out, you learn and you get better, you move forward. And if you take that first step and it's not the right first step, take a step back, look around, take another step. Try stuff. I think that's going to be the beauty of it. And then the other thing, of course, for all entrepreneurs is, and I'm going to give you the advice because the 3 best winners in my portfolio ever, Skype, Tesla, and the Baidu. All 3 of them use the exact same word, which is just bizarre, in describing their customers. They said, I want to delight my customer. If you put that into your head and delight your customer, you will eventually be successful. You want to do whatever you can to make that customer delighted. So like, if we had 3 Californias, we would have had 3 governments trying to delight you and all of you. But instead, we have whatever we got.
Right. Thank you so much for your time. Appreciate you very much, Mr. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
Thanks.